everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Better You. I'm your host, Fernanda Ramirez, and I'm so happy you clicked on today's episode. For today, we are going to be talking about a topic that is so helpful for a number of reasons. We are going to be speaking on how to master detachment. That is, detaching from people, situations, outcomes, and overall, just the law of detachment. This is such an important principle, and I feel like is so helpful in so many things, and it will actually help you achieve your dream life, achieve the goals that you want, maybe manifest that person, whatever it may be, whatever goal you're reaching for. It is so much more likely to happen when you've mastered detachment and you're not forcing control for situations to come through. We are going to be talking about why detachment is necessary, why some people may struggle with detachment, how to practice letting go and avoiding holding on to situations that no longer serve you, as well as how to respond when other people react to your detachment, and overall, just, I guess, the idea of letting things unfold naturally and trusting in the universe or whatever you believe in, trusting in a higher power to make the things that are meant for you come true without you feeling the need to hold on and really force those things to happen. I'm really excited for this episode because I feel like it is something that I have been trying to practice throughout at least the past few years. It's something that I've really focused on, and I don't think that I would necessarily be in the situation that I'm in currently if I hadn't been okay with letting things unfold the way that they were meant to be. I also feel like not only in like kind of the spiritual aspect of like, you know, trusting in divine timing or whatever, I think detachment is also such an important thing when it comes to friendships and relationships and just people in general, so that you maintain your own autonomy and like your freedom and your independence and not relying on other people or other things to bring you that sense of joy or comfort or fulfillment. But anyways, before we go into today's topic, because I feel like there's so many things to discuss in that, let me give you a little bit of an update on my life and how I'm doing and just a little bit of an intro. For one, I recently uploaded a YouTube video and it was like a little bit of a New Year's getting my life back together, and it was very vulnerable. It was very raw, and I got so many positive comments on that YouTube video. There were so many of you guys that listened to the podcast as well, but watched that video and said that it really resonated with you if you're going through a heartbreak or that's happened to you recently, or a breakup, or you were just, you know, going into the new year feeling like you're kind of in a slump, or you've just been feeling sad, or you've been feeling down. Definitely watch that video because I talk a lot about what I actually did to get myself out of a slump and some of the techniques and I guess practices that are so helpful for me to ground myself and make myself feel better and lift my vibrations and, you know, raise my frequency, you know, all of the good stuff. I really like the way that video turned out, but I did want to say, I know a lot of you guys resonated with it. So if this is speaking to you, definitely watch that video. I'm really proud of the way it turned out. And also, if you did watch that video, you would know that at the beginning of the month, I was feeling a little bit down bad. I don't know. There were some things that came up that stirred a lot of emotions for me. And I was just really sad around that period. And I was so distraught, feeling like I was going into the new year not feeling my best, because I was like, I've been feeling good for so many months. How could this happen to me right now when the new year is starting? You know, you want to start on a fresh note, and there's so much content surrounding going into the new year and making it your best year yet. It just feels like the absolute worst time to be going through a down period, but it happens. We cannot control our emotions or our situations or the circumstances. So, you know, dealing with the punches, as they say, or riding that wave, I feel like is the only thing that you can do. And as for myself, now that that wave has kind of passed, I'm feeling so much better again. And it did take me like genuinely 2 weeks or like a week and a half to feel better, I swear. But now that it is, you know, the middle of January, nearing the end, I am feeling so much better. I'm feeling so happy, so excited, so fresh and fulfilled. And I'm going to pretend like February 1st is actually my New Year's. So let's just disregard what happened to me. I'm treating January as my getting my life back together month, and that is what it has been. I've been treating this month to connect with the people that I really care about and do some more hobbies and try some new things. I feel like I've done a lot of activities over the past month that has been out of my comfort zone, and more hobbies and stuff, and it has genuinely been so exciting and freeing, and it's just been so fulfilling for me. So I encourage you guys to try maybe a new hobby or a new skill, or I don't know, figuring out a new way to hang out with a friend. I feel like could be a really fun and great idea for January, and just overall focusing on like self-care and healing. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about mastering detachment. Now, first, let's start with a little bit of a definition, because you know we love those here. Detachment is a healthy emotional boundary that prevents you from over-investing in things outside of your control. First, I want to say, actually, I just posted a podcast episode on boundary setting and everything you need to know about boundaries. So definitely go watch that episode if you haven't already. It is just the previous one that I posted. And the law of detachment is the the ability to let go of one's need to control outcomes in situations, attachment to one's desires, and the need to control other people. So as you can see from those definitions, is overall just not feeling the need to control something to get a certain outcome, and also not overinvesting or stretching yourself too thin emotionally. It is about trusting the flow of life and allowing things to unfold naturally without forcing or clinging. To give a little bit of personal experience on detachment for myself, I feel like I have had to learn detachment in so many different aspects of my life. For one, I mean, the industry that I'm in and the career that I'm in, if I obsess over numbers and views and followers, it is a painful journey, let me just tell you, because things are always going up and down. And I have to remind myself that like what will be will be. And if I'm meant to be in this career, if I'm meant to have this job, the things will happen when they are meant to happen and things will unfold naturally. So not obsessing over the little things is so important, and rather just trusting your own intuition and your own creative path, for me, is like what has gotten me to where I am now, and not feeling attached to the numbers or the external validation that comes along with that. I feel like another way that I have really practiced detachment has been through friendships and relationships. I think when I was younger, I used to get attached to friends really easily, and I would just, invest so much of my time and like my mental energy into other people. And when somebody would move schools even, or somebody moved away, I would be so distraught because I had put like all my eggs in one basket. And I think that might be something that you like learn with time. And I guess in a new way, this has happened to me more in the past few years, where I've made friends. When I was living in my hometown, I would make friends in the city, and then they would end up moving away, or they would only be here for a short amount of time. When those situations would happen, there was like two ways that it would play out. One, I would be so upset when they went away because I was just like, this was my friend. Like, I just put so much time into this and I'm just so sad that they're gone. And like, it's just so sad and emo. Or on the other hand, I would be like, what is the point of even getting attached when they are going to end up leaving anyways? That was a personal problem. It might have been the fearful avoidance in me. But yeah, I was just kind of like, I don't even want to get attached because they're just going to end up leaving. And I feel like in both of those situations, I have learned that like, you need to be in the moment, you need to enjoy the present and enjoy what is in front of you right now, because things may come, things may stay. Those are just chapters in your life, and those are experiences that are teaching you something within yourself. But if they go away, or if they suddenly disappear, it's not going to affect you emotionally to a point of like being in devastation, if that makes sense. I have had to be more mindful and more present in my experiences and in my friendships and in my connections, with the mentality still being that like, I'm just going to trust the flow of life and the way that things unfold, and kind of just remind myself that change is inevitable, and just kind of enjoy things while you have them. That kind of goes for like people and friendships and relationships and stuff, just enjoying it while you have it. And now we have reached the sponsored portion of today's video. So thank you to Hinge for sponsoring this episode. As somebody who has spent this past year reconnecting with my authentic self, I've realized how important it is to show up as you in every aspect of life, including dating. There's just something so powerful about knowing who you are, what you bring to the table, and the energy you want to attract into your life. This holiday season, Hinge is inviting daters to refresh their profiles and embrace their most authentic selves heading into 2025. It's all about taking a step back and asking yourself, how can I present who I truly am, and how can I call in connections that align with my values and visions for the future? For me personally, this could even mean letting go of the pressure to perform or fit into someone else's idea of perfect, and instead rather focus on being unapologetically me. Whether it is updating your photos to reflect who you are in your everyday life, or switching up your prompts to spark deeper and more thoughtful conversations, making a small refresh can make a huge difference. I personally believe that the goal is to attract someone who complements your energy and supports your dreams while also inspiring you to grow. And of course, there is no better time than the new year to embrace these ideas. If you're on the same journey as me and have taken the time to reflect on your past year, make sure to head over to Hinge and update or refresh your profile to ensure that you are showing up as the most authentic version of you. Now let's get back to the episode. I also just want to say, as I'm explaining this, that I feel that I need to explain that there's two ways to kind of look at this. For one, I feel like there is healthy detachment in the sense that you are involved with all the things around you and the people around you and the situations around you, but you're not over investing into them to the point where they are influencing your mood and your happiness. So having a little bit of detachment is good because things can change all around you, and that's okay. And then in the other way, I mean detachment in the sense that if you are working towards something, not feeling so attached to the outcome of it so that you can keep working on what you're working on and being in the moment without the pressure for it to turn out a certain way. Does that make sense? I feel like when I'm explaining it, those are two different things, and I want to make sure that we're kind of talking about both of them throughout this episode. I also found online here that detachment is not indifference, but maintaining a sense of peace regardless of external circumstances. And I really like that because I feel like detachment sometimes, you almost think about it in like a way like you don't really care about the things around you or the people around you or the situations, and you almost kind of detach as a way of protecting yourself from getting hurt. But that is not in the case that I mean. And like we said here, it is more about maintaining a sense of peace regardless of what happens on the exterior. And I also feel like what's important with detachment and making sure that it's healthy detachment and not unhealthy detachment is knowing what your intention is behind it. Knowing if you're leading with love or fear. By that, I mean, are you detached because you're scared of the other people not feeling the same about you, or about something not working out, or a goal not happening for you? Is that why you're detached? Or are you detached because you know that regardless of what happens on the outside world, you already have everything you need within you. You trust in the universe, and whatever's meant for you will be. Whatever stays is meant to stay. You trust in your own self that you will make it work no matter what. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm explaining this properly, but those are two different reasons for why you may be detached in the first place, and intention makes all the difference. I also kind of want to point that out by saying if there's anything that you're thinking about while I talk about this topic, or there's something in your mind where you're feeling like you're getting overly invested in, I think reframing that situation and pinning down the reason for why detachment may be helpful can be really useful in your situation. Like, is it helpful to be detached? There's actually a spiritual leader named Deepak Chopra. I hope I'm saying that right. Deepak Chopra. And he says that to get anything in the physical world, you have to detach from the outcome and be in the process. Just as I said earlier, for example, with like becoming a YouTuber or something. The reason why it is important to learn detachment is to practice emotional freedom, and also it allows you to stop like ruminating over the same thoughts and obsessing over certain outcomes. I'm somebody who tends to overthink, and I can definitely get into like thought loops of obsessing over an outcome, and it's not really beneficial for me because either way I won't be able to change what happens, so I have to let it run its course rather than intellectualizing like my feelings or just letting it consume me. Because also we have to remind ourselves that the things that we want a lot of the times, since they're out of our control, happen the best, or they end up getting manifested when you are working on yourself and you are working on becoming the best version of yourself so that you attract all the right things in your life. Again, you can focus on your own personal growth, and instead of channeling that energy outwards, you can channel it into yourself and working on the things you have going for you. Also, I feel like detachment, especially how I said earlier in like friendships and with friends, allows for you not to get into a codependent type of relationship with someone else, which you might even crave a codependent relationship. Like you might think it's what you want, or like a codependent friendship, but in reality, a relationship and a friendship works the best when you guys both have your own independence and your own lives, and then you are able to meet in the middle with like mutual respect, and no one is kind of counting on the other person to fill a void for them. An example that I can use in my previous relationship was that because I spent so long traveling and I really wanted to experience my early 20s and prioritize my career, I think that there was a healthy amount of detachment. Again, not fully in a detachment because you don't want to get too close to this person, or a detachment where you don't care about this person, but more of a detachment in codependent tendencies so that I could focus on myself and focus on my career and be able to travel without feeling like I needed to constantly be around this person, or, you know, rely on them as my whole source of happiness to the point where it would distract me from my own personal goals and aspirations. So I feel like in that case, having my own independence and practicing detachment while being in a long-term relationship as I progressed from like my late teens to like early 20s was super helpful for my career to make sure that I end up getting the goals that I want to get done. Another way that I practiced detachment was when I would travel to new cities or new countries, I would make friends with new people and allow that experience to be what it was. and like enjoy the person's presence while I'm with them without getting too attached and then it just being like a traumatizing goodbye where you're just so sad to let them go because you grew so attached to them. Overall, it just reminded me to savor the experience, if that makes sense, because you know that you might not get to see them again or you might not get to see them for a while. Now, on the other hand, if you are somebody who struggles with detachment and you tend to get attached to things very quickly, I will say that that is completely normal and that is so understandable. And I think everybody has that kind of dilemma inside where you don't want to feel like anything is going to go away. And I actually made a podcast episode on change, and I feel like that episode also really touched on a lot of the topics that I'm talking about here, because when you are learning to be okay with change, you have to learn the law of detachment. So I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. But a reason for why people may struggle to detach is the fear of change and the fear of even thinking that they are not enough, like somebody else is going to leave them behind. And also, I feel like sometimes attachment to people and to things and to outcomes can be the result of thinking in a scarcity mindset, like thinking that you won't be blessed with more, thinking that you won't ever attain something like this again. For example, if you made some money in a side hustle and you're excessively attached to this, that is coming from a scarcity mindset, one of lack, where you think that you might not make this money again. Whereas if you were detached from that money that you were making and you just kept working on your craft, you would probably keep making more. Another example could be like you're holding on to even a friend that is not a good friend to you anymore. And instead of letting them go and allowing space for someone else to come in, you are holding on to them due to this attachment. I feel like another personal example for me would even honestly be my last relationship. When it had run its course, I think letting it go and allowing space for something new to enter was what was necessary, rather than holding on to something that just wasn't right anymore, just for the sake of familiarity and for comfort, and almost not feeling the feelings that come with change and transition. I also just love that idea in general of being okay with things coming and going, because the universe will double it if you believe in that. For example, I always think about this like when you're doing an act of kindness, or I feel like this is kind of a little bit off topic, but being generous with the things that you have. I feel like that is something that my parents always taught me and my mom is really like big on. For example, if I have my friends come over, I always allow them to like take whatever they want from the fridge. Even my things, for example, like if my friends want to use my makeup or they want to use my clothes or they want to use my perfume or I have extra PR, whatever my friends want, I'm always open to giving it out because I know that I will make that in return. I will get that in return. And rather than holding on to it and being like, this is mine, like feeling like it's my precious, like, you know, I worked so hard for this, so I don't want to give it out to anyone. That is not helping anyone. And acting in that way just goes to show that I don't think I'm going to make it again, or I don't think I'm going to get those things again. For that example in particular, I feel like that's a reason why I love being generous and giving my things out to other people, because I don't have attachment to external things. And actually, I feel like, just to note here, I feel like that's a very fortunate position to be in for myself. I remember when I was younger and maybe I wasn't in the position that I am now, I maybe would have been a little bit more possessive for my physical things because they meant so much to me. But now that I have an excess of things, I don't care as much. And I feel like that's a very particular situation to be in, where maybe not everyone would get to experience at all times. I feel like it's a very fortunate position to be in, but it does go to show that the more that you get things, and like the more PR products that I get, the more clothes I get sent to me, the less things are attached to meaning. And I realize that like what means the most to me in reality is, you know, what's inside and the people that I have in my life and like the connections, less about materialistic things. And often, honestly, I think about that even with like the wildfires happening and like all of these scary things that could be like a natural disaster that literally in an instant just make all of your things disappear. I was actually thinking about that the other day, like what are the things that I have such immense attachment to that I would want to save? And there are honestly little things in my apartment that I would like be so distraught over losing, just because I feel like I don't actually have a lot of attachment to my external things, which I think is a good thing and maybe a bad thing, because I want to be more intentional with the things that I do have and like make sure that they really have a lot of value to them. But I just feel like it's a liberating place to be in, to know that the things around you aren't what bring you joy and they aren't what makes you who you are, and rather those aren't the important things in life. I feel like it actually really puts things into perspective. Also, I feel like I'm getting so off topic, but I think that that's kind of relevant to this conversation of detachment and just at least for not being attached to the material things. An unhealthy amount of attachment can lead to a lot of mental and emotional anguish. I also found an article online that was saying that our greed will never be rewarded. It's only when we give things up that our lives take a turn for the better. You have to trust that the universe that gave birth to you has your best intentions in mind when it takes things away from you. And I just feel like that was a really wholesome and cute little quote that resonates kind of with what I was explaining. Another, I guess, belief that I really identify with is just the idea of divine timing and trusting that when the time is right, things will happen for you. That is just something that I kind of live by. And so if something isn't happening for me in the moment, I don't ruminate over that and like get really upset over something not working out for me, because I trust that if it's not happening for me right now, it is because something better is coming my way, or maybe I'm not ready for that thing to happen. And that kind of allows me to not be anxious about those things that I want so bad, and rather, again, focus on the process and focus on what I'm doing rather than those external things. When the time is right, and if those things are meant for you, they will come into fruition. A quote that I found online that I really resonate with is, "What will be, will be." It really just reminds you to let go. Let go of everything, honestly. Things will work out the way they are meant to be. You cannot control anything. And it's also just a reminder to be open to different things. I feel like being open-minded, being open-hearted, just being open with your energy and doing your own thing is the best way to attract what's actually meant for you and like what actually aligns with you. Now let's talk about how to actually detach from people and situations. So for the first one, people. If this is a relationship that is no longer healthy, so it is one-sided, they're being mean to you, you are not liking the way that they're making you feel, this is the time when you are going to want to set your boundaries and really putting up like a limit and a wall between you and that person. And I just, like I said earlier, posted an episode on boundary setting, so definitely watch that if that is something that you struggle with. But putting up boundaries to protect yourself and your own emotional involvement is so important. And an affirmation for this is, I release what no longer serves me and I trust that what is meant for me will stay. And that is also your reminder that the things that are meant for you, you won't have to work for them, you won't have to fight for them, and they should feel good and they should feel natural. As for detaching from situations, this is where you have to remind yourself that you cannot control other people, you cannot control the way people act, you cannot control the way people feel, and stressing out over the outcome will not help anything and will rather make you feel unsafe within your own body. I've said it throughout this whole episode, but when detaching from situations, I think it is important to focus on yourself, what you're doing, your own personal growth, your own self-love, hobbies, your own routines, your own goals, just kind of living in the present moment and being mindful rather than working yourself up about the past or the future. An example of this could be if your plans fell through, rather than being upset at the people or the situation as a whole, focusing on what you can do about it and what you can do with your time now, and even thinking in a more positive light. And then as for outcomes and detaching from maybe hearing results that you weren't wishing for, or results that weren't the ones you were intending for. Again, reminding yourself that things are out of your control. You tried your best. Some things are not meant for you. And if that wasn't meant to happen, that means something better is coming your way. Or maybe you can take this situation as a chance to look at the lessons, take it as like a learning experience. What could you have done better? What did you do right? I think that's also important, like giving yourself a pat on the back for the things that you did do properly, and reminding yourself of the gratitude for the journey and not just the outcome. I feel like also an example of this would be when you are goal setting. I feel like a lot of people are doing this in January of 2025, but you might be setting a bunch of goals, which is a great thing because it gives you kind of focus and direction and intention. But if those goals don't end up working out, you don't have to be like so upset with yourself and like angry that you didn't do things, because things don't always turn out the way that you meant for them, but rather having those goals as kind of like a guideline and like a soft path for you to kind of be on. And if they don't work out, they don't work out, that's fine. Again, detaching from the outcome and not putting all your eggs into those baskets to the point where if you didn't do them, it's going to cause you this like mental anguish. Another thing that is really important in detachment is recognizing your own self-worth and fostering that feeling and that belief that you're worthy on your own without the external things around you, or without somebody else's external validation, or without like a tangible achievement or like status symbol. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are already fine on your own. You are already worthy on your own. You are already enough on your own, and everything exterior to you, especially when it comes to like goals or people, they're only there to add joy to your life or to, you know, be a physical representation of something that you accomplished, but it doesn't take away from who you are. It doesn't take away from your journey. It doesn't take away from you as a person. And again, a final reminder for the goal setting and stuff, detachment doesn't mean that you're not going to be trying as hard or that you don't care of what the results are going to be. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be giving up, but rather it is you trusting how things will naturally unfold. I also want to point out that if you feel someone detaching from you in a way that they are kind of putting boundaries up, I feel like it is important to also recognize the way they feel and like why they're doing that and being okay with that in return. Maybe even being compassionate for like why they're doing what they're doing. And that is your reminder that anybody that cares about your own self and personal growth will value what you do for yourself or the way that you go about things. Anyways, I'm going to end this episode off here. I'm not sure if this was a shorter episode or not, but I feel like we kind of touched on what it means to detach from things and why it is so important. And I hope that this is a reminder for you guys and maybe a little push to reflect on your own life and think about if there is anything that you are really holding on to right now, but in a way where it's getting unhealthy, and focusing on if you can redirect those thoughts and focus on yourself and reminding yourself that you are enough on your own. You do not need anything in the external world. And when you let go of things, you make room for things to come in. What is meant for you will always find you. And also, change is inevitable. And even if things are only in your life for a phase, it will teach you something and it is worth exploring for that time being. Anyways, I'm gonna end the episode off here. I hope you guys enjoyed it and definitely take a look through my past few episodes and hopefully you'll find something that you enjoy or that resonates with you. So anyways, I love you guys and I will talk to you later.